Hello, love. It's Nina with Passion Squared. Welcome back to the podcast. This week, we are going to talk about healthy boundaries and hurt feelings, which is actually a reel that I shared last week on the Passion Squared Instagram page. And then I got some really great questions from that reel that honestly require more than 90 seconds to go through because I want to make sure that you have all the tools you need to navigate some of those difficult situations. So, for context, let's go back to the reel. The reel was about a question discussing how can I practice healthy boundaries and not hurt someone's feelings. And it's so interesting that we see sometimes, not all of us, some of us, many of us, see healthy boundaries as mean or hurtful or cruel. And they are the complete opposite of that. Healthy boundaries are just that, healthy. They are kind. They are compassionate. They are clear. However, when we're dealing with folks that are not used to healthy boundaries or boundaries in general, sometimes on the receiving end of those healthy boundaries is anger and projection and resentment and all of those things. And the thing we have to remember is that that is not our responsibility. As long as we are clear and compassionate and communicating in a simple way, in alignment with our brands, that's all we're responsible for. So I'll put a link to that reel that you can take a look at, but I'm going to dive deeper. So the caption of this post is that when you're passive aggressive, manipulative, and hurtful, that is generally what hurts people's feelings. Remembering that many people out there may not be used to healthy boundaries and see them as hurtful, but that's out of your control. I have to remind you, that is out of your control. It is not cruel to take care of your own needs. That is actually kind. And it's kind to be clear with people, to communicate simply and clearly with people, to set expectations. Now, whether that's through your business agreements, through client agreements, team agreements, tenant agreements, or dealing with difficult clients or difficult team members or just difficult humans, you are not responsible for how people react or respond as long as you're not being mean and passive aggressive and cruel. So anyways, so the awesome at Evan Joseph Curls on Instagram said, what about when you do communicate effectively and the other person or client flips out? And then Evan asked, would I mind making a video about that, which is now more than a video. It's a podcast. So let's get some context to this particular situation. And then let's talk about a few different ways we can respond to clients like that, depending on the outcome we're seeking. So for context, in this particular situation, a client arrives 45 minutes late. You kindly explain to her that you aren't going to be able to do her hair and you can reschedule her for the next day. You also kindly explain your policies surrounding this sort of thing. And then Evan says, I know they should be called agreements. We recommend using the word agreement because two people are responsible versus policy, meaning the business is saying you can do this, you can't do that, which doesn't always get buy-in from more than two parties. So if you've followed us, if you've listened to anything, yes, we believe agreement allows more than one person to take responsibility. Okay, you let her know that you can reschedule her, but she will be charged the cancellation fee and will need to pay for the new appointment as well. She starts crying, telling you why your policies are wrong. She leaves, then she comes back and she goes off and is angry again, even more. Okay, so that sucks. And hopefully this is not common. Now, before we get into my recommendations for conversations around this, when things like this happen, not the client getting angry, but a possible miscommunication around agreements or policies, and if you're going to bring that into the conversation, you want to make sure that they're actually clear and that they are opted into and agreed to. And of course, you have all the technology today to do that. We can write all the policies, contracts, agreements we want. However, if clients aren't clear on those, and we aren't 100% sure they're clear on those, we have some work to do on that end, okay? Because if we're waiting for the client to arrive 45 minutes late to let them know about our policies, contracts, agreements, it's too late, right? It's too late. I'm not saying this is what happened in this situation. However, just very important to remember. Okay, so then I asked Evan, what outcome are you seeking? Meaning, are you seeking to retain this client? And is this a client that you've been seeing for a long time that has significant lifetime client value that you want to retain? Or do you want to excuse the client from your business? And they said excuse in this particular context. So if you no longer want to take care of this client, here is a general conversation framework. And let's pretend I'm the client, Nina. So Nina flips out, right? As I just shared earlier. Nina, I understand how frustrating it can be to miss your appointment. Our agreements are designed to ensure all of our clients get the best experience possible, the one we promise at our salon. It is clear to me our salon is not aligned with your needs or expectations. And because of this, I'm recommending you find a salon that is better aligned. Now, Nina, the client that's angry, may not like that response. However, it's aligned, it's clear, it's compassionate. That's it, right? That's your responsibility. That's all you can be responsible for. If they continue to be combative, Nina, we do not allow our team to be spoken to or treated this way. So I'm kindly asking you to leave the salon now, and we will be removing you from our client list. I need you to leave now. Is this fun? No, this is not fun, but shit like this happens. Hopefully, again, very, very infrequently, right? And again, if you have clients that are not this one client, but if you find that more and more of your clients are struggling with your agreements, policies, contracts, agreements, then you need to look at your agreements. And again, like I said earlier, you need to make sure that they are clearly opted into before they arrive for their experience. Now, that's it. That's a healthy boundary. That's not mean. That's not cruel. That's not aggressive or passive aggressive. It's what it is, right? This is what's happening. This is what we don't allow. Meaning we do not allow our team to be treated this way. We do not allow us to be spoken to this way. We don't allow that. This is not okay. And I need you to leave. That is a healthy boundary. That is a healthy boundary. People like this are not going to be thrilled. However, that's not your responsibility. And these are not the common situations. These are the outlier situations, I hope. Okay, so let's get to the outcome is to retain the client. Again, context is everything. This client has been with you forever. They have a very high lifetime client value because they have continued to sing your praises, refer all their friends, et cetera, et cetera. And a situation came up and we decide we're going to practice some compassion. Okay. Remember, we're not in extreme thinking. We're not in black and white thinking. We are looking at the situation for what it is and taking into consideration our brand, and lifetime client value, etc. Nina, I truly value you as a client and understand that issues arise. While we do not have space to take care of you today, we do have time on this day and we do have time on this day. Since this is your first time missing your appointment, and if you arrive 45 minutes late, obviously you've missed your appointment. Since this is your first time missing your appointment, we will waive the missed appointment fee. I'm sending lots of love to your family member, sending them lots of healing. I hope they're doing better. So for this context, I made up that this client was 45 minutes late because they had a family emergency. I'm just making that up for context. Okay, so the client, Nina, says, neither of those days or times work for me. Can't you just do it now? Nina, I wish I could. However, as you know, each client we take care of is promised our full time and attention. It's part of our experience and part of our promise. We just don't have any wiggle room today. If we did, trust me, I would make it work for you. We also have this day and time and this day and time. Which one works for you? Simple. Simple. Now, again, if you're seeing more and more clients struggling with your agreements or policies or contracts, that may be an issue on your end in terms of how these things are communicated clearly, simply, and opted into. The client is very clear through the entire pre-experience journey of the business agreements. If they're not, then that means you have some work to do on ensuring that they are. This particular situation that Evan was sharing, I honestly hope that this is very few and far between. Very few and far between. I know that these situations get a lot of our emotional attention because they're a nightmare. However, we have to remember perspective. If you have 100 clients and this one thing happens every 6 months, we have to keep that in perspective. It's a pain in the ass. It's exhausting. However, it's just one time, very infrequently. So these conversation frameworks are something that we wrote into my Awesome as Fuck Healthy Boundary Handbook that I published in 2019. Because these are things that we talk with our clients about all the time. This situation happened. What do I do? And at Passion Squared, one of our promises is we empower you to make more aligned decisions, aligned for your business, brand, and your life. And one of the ways that you can make more aligned decisions is when you have clarity of the outcome you're seeking. You have clarity of your objectives. You have clarity of how you want to feel, how you want your clients or teams to feel. And then designing conversations to help you with these situations that, of course, are going to come up. So these are questions that we want to ask ourselves. Now, when we're in a heightened situation in the moment, I know that it's difficult to say, hold on, let me go work on my conversation framework and I'll get back to you. That's not feasible. However, the more we practice this, we are going to have more clarity and more confidence and more courage when these situations arise. So literally, we have so many different conversation frameworks. Let's talk about a really common one. I just want to share. Let's see. Okay, here's one. A client cancels last minute. So a no boundary response, and this is taken literally from the pages of my Awesome as Fuck Healthy Boundary Handbook, which is available on passionsquared.net. Okay, so a client cancels last minute. A no boundary response would be ranting, putting them on blast on social media, do nothing and just get super resentful. Change your client agreements because one person didn't show up, and then project resentment and blah, 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 blah. Okay. Healthy boundary response is remembering that shit happens, right? Clients don't show up, they cancel. It's part of business. This is part of business. And again, if you're seeing it as a trend, then that's an issue on your end with communication and opt-in of those agreements. So usually it's not common. However, we emotionally create this like everyone's against us and it's happening with everyone. Hopefully it's not. So communicating with the client clearly about your business agreements is key. We cannot assume that they read fine print or watched a highlight on Instagram. Now, of course, only you can determine how people are going to opt into your agreements, but literally the technology's everywhere for them to opt in, whether it's on your Salon software, your booking apps, the reminders. I mean, you can opt in so many different places. Okay, so here's the conversation. Hi, Nina. I saw you just canceled your appointment. Yeah, sorry, I got busy. I understand how busy you are and want to be sure you understand our booking agreements. Here's the link if you would like to read it. Since this is your first late cancellation, I will waive the fee. Please be sure to go online to get rebooked. Have an awesome day. Or, Nina, I get that things come up. Since this is your third late cancellation, you will see a fee charge on your statement. Please use this link to rebook. Thank you. So there's more than one way to respond depending on the situation. Client, what the fuck? You're charging me a fee? I got busy. When you became a client and agreed and signed our booking agreement, this is what you agreed to. Client, fine, I'm very disappointed. Or, hi, Nina, I saw you just late canceled your appointment. As you agreed when you became a client, the fourth time you late cancel, we can no longer book you, which really bums me out. I wish you all the best. So you see the different outcomes and depending on the alignment of your agreement. So whatever your business agreements say, clearly, simply, that's how we want to respond, keeping in mind lifetime client value and the situation at hand. It's not always about, again, black and white thinking. You want to stay aligned with your agreements. However, we have to remember that humans are humaning and things happen. And the world is not against you or me. Healthy boundaries allow us to stay flexible. Staying flexible is not lacking boundaries. Staying flexible is being human. And so much of this is about perspective. While it seems like, oh my God, this is happening all the time, if we really sat down and looked at it, and it's one client every quarter that has a meltdown, then that's a very small percentage. It just takes up a lot of our emotional bandwidth. So when we're making decisions around how we want to communicate with clients, how we want to respond, how we want to reply, we always want to keep these things in mind. The last thing I'm going to say on this is where the compassion part comes in. You can be super compassionate and also practice healthy boundaries. If we go back to the situation that Evan brought up about the client crying and being so upset, we have to remember that people are going through things that we are not aware of. And we all have a breaking point. Now, nobody should behave this way or treat people this way or talk to people this way. However, we have to remember that we don't know what was happening with this client before they arrived 45 minutes late. We have no idea. And the response being crying and yelling is inappropriate for the actual situation, generally speaking. However, what if this client was 45 minutes late because they were getting ready to have to deal with something gut-wrenching and heartbreaking, and their hair was an incredibly important part of this thing they had to do? Again, I'm not excusing poor behavior. And this type of response is not consistent with the situation. We don't know people's breaking points. We talk about mental health and wellness. We talk about compassion and grace. We have to remember these things. And you can have compassion and grace and still practice healthy boundaries. You can have compassion and grace and still not be able to take care of this client on this day because you literally cannot. You can still have compassion and grace and ask a client to leave immediately. We do not know what anyone's breaking point is. And when we see this type of behavior, this highly inappropriate response to a situation like, yeah, you just couldn't get your hair done that day, that may have been the breaking point for this client. I have no idea. But neither do you. We do not know what is happening with these individuals. And both things can be true. We can have compassion and grace, and we can have healthy boundaries. We can have compassion and grace, and we can tell this person they are no longer allowed in our business. So we want to stay flexible. We want to stay clear. We want to keep things simple. And remember, this is part of life. This is part of business. Evan, thank you so much for the question. This is such an important conversation and a big part of what we do here at Passion Squared. I would love to hear from you on this episode. You can find me on the socials at Passion Squared, all over the place, all the socials at passionsquared.net. And you can always email me at awesome@passionsquared.net. If you love our podcast, sharing your experience, I would love to hear it. Whether you email, DM, or share on a review. Your experience with our podcast and our entire company matters to me. And I'm so grateful you're here. Thank you so much for listening. Have a peaceful day. Bye.